So let's go ahead then and go format. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
Okay, and we now have successfully created encrypted volume on my Kali machine. And then what I can do is to put all of my personal confidential files into that volume, and they will be safe from any prying eyes.
Hey everyone, Yaniv Hoffman here, back with another video, and I'm excited to host again the channel favorite, Master Hacker Occupy the Web. Welcome.
Thank you, Yaniv. It's always an honor to be on your show.
I'm so glad to have you back. And if you are not familiar with Occupy the Web, we did a bunch of videos about hacking, very successful one. I will leave the links in the description and on the screen. And also Occupy the Web is the author of some exceptional books. One of them is Linux Basic for hackers. The second one is Getting Started, Becoming a Master Hacker. And always Occupy the Web say that hacking is the most important skill set of the 21st century. And the latest book, which is super recommended, is Network Basic for hackers. So again, I will leave affiliate links in the description. Check it out. It's a must for everyone that goes into this path of cybersecurity and hacking. On top of that, Occupy the Web has a big community of Hacker Arise, which is a great fundamental and advanced actually training in hacking. And by courtesy of Occupy the Web, he also gave my viewers here in the channel a 20% discount on everything in the shop. Use the coupon name Yaniv, Y-A-N-I-V, on the screen to get it. And with that said, Occupy the Web, welcome again. And what we are going to speak today.
Thank you, Yaniv. Well, one of the things that I think is underappreciated within the cybersecurity community, hacking, cybersecurity, penetration testing, this whole industry that you and I operate in, is the necessity of protecting your data. When we put our data into our machine, whether it be company information or personal information, it can be exposed. It can be exposed if, for instance, you're backing it up to the cloud, right?
Uh-huh.
It can be exposed if somebody steals your laptop, okay? It can be exposed in a lot of different ways. And so whatever the rationale for protecting your information, I think everybody needs to do that. And even though you might have a password on your computer, it's pretty easy for somebody like me or any professional in our industry to be able to access your data. There's real simple ways for any forensic analyst to be able to pull your data off your hard drive without knowing your password. And if you lose your laptop, and somebody can physically take the hard drive out of your system, if it has personal information or it has confidential information about your company, whatever it happens to be, it's easy for somebody to pull that data off that system. So what I want to do today is to show people how they can protect their data, right? There's been over the years a number of different encryption applications. And as we know, for instance, in the Windows world, there's BitLocker, right? Mm-hmm. But BitLocker is pretty much it only applies to the Windows Pro operating systems. So people at home don't necessarily have it on their system. And then if you're working in a corporate environment, there's, the IT manager has access to the password, what have you, and there's always various ways for somebody to get to your data if you're using one of those corporate-based encryption schemes. So what you're probably better off doing is using something like VeraCrypt. Those people who've been around this industry for a while might remember TrueCrypt, right? TrueCrypt's been around,
right.
But VeraCrypt is the successor to TrueCrypt. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to take the data on our hard drive and encrypt it with a password of our choice that only we know, in a way that nobody else can ever see our data. In law enforcement, intelligence agencies, corporate spies, all these people will not be able to access your data. So let's take a look at how to do that today. And by the way, VeraCrypt applies to both Mac, Linux, Windows systems. It doesn't matter what system you're using, what operating system. VeraCrypt will work with almost everything. You can't say everything because there's always going to be one exception, right? So let's go ahead and look up VeraCrypt online.
Okay, great. Definitely, this is data privacy is a necessity, and I'm looking forward to see it.
So here's VeraCrypt. Okay, this is their official website, VeraCrypt France. Okay, and you can see here the downloads. Okay, and you can see there's a Windows version. It's what I'm going to go through is the Linux version, because my people all use Linux. Obviously, I wrote the book Linux Basics for Hackers, so I'm going to show you how to do it in Linux on Kali. But the process is going to be the same, almost identical. I put it onto my Windows systems. I put it onto my Linux systems. I don't have a Mac system, but it's all going to be basically the same. It's going to walk you through the process of installing it. It's pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead here and let's go. We've got some generic installers right here. You can see that they have various packages for different distributions of Linux, but we can just go ahead and install the generic one and give it a minute to do its thing. It doesn't take very long. All right, looks like it's done. There's VeraCrypt. Okay. Now, if you're using Kali, I'm using the latest version of Kali, so your viewers probably have heard me say in the past that I don't like using necessarily the latest and greatest operating systems or applications. I tend to let people work through all the bugs in their betas and wait a couple of years. But in this case here, I made an exception and I downloaded the brand new Kali. You can tell by the background screen. But in my real life, as a pen tester, I don't use the latest and greatest. I use older versions that are tried and true, and I don't have to go through all of the beta testing of a brand new application or operating system. And there's things that I don't like about the new versions of Linux, new versions of Kali, but we're not going to talk about that today. Maybe in another video. So you can just use the GUI extractor, right? That's built into Kali. It automatically opens up, and just go ahead and extract, and we'll go here and extract it.
Now you're caught on camera with the latest Linux, so
I know.
That's what will happen, OTW.
People will say, "You said you don't use the latest." I tend to not. Sometimes, but people would always, when I'd be teaching class or I'd be doing a video, people would be saying, "That's like a 3-year-old version of Kali. Why are you using that? Why aren't you using the latest? That's an old stuff." I'm like, well, it does the job. It does exactly what I want it to do,
Exactly.
And why do I want to use one that still has all the bugs in it, right? So, anyways, so let's go here. That's kind of the. Let's go. I think should be in downloads, right? CD to our downloads file. Downloads directory, go there. There it is. You can see we have several of them here. You can see these are, because I've expanded it, it's kind of wrapping the text around. So you can see here's VeraCrypt 1.26.7 setup console x64 x86. Yeah. So it's different they have different applications and different GUIs on them. Let's go ahead and use the 64-bit setup GUI right here. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll just copy and paste it so I don't make any typos on it. All right, that's copy, and then let's go let's paste it in place, and we're gonna go and you give it a // And there we go. Okay, so I just use the dot / that tells Linux to don't look in the path command, but look in the current directory or the executable or the binary. And usually people use the term binary in Linux and they use executable in Windows. They're basically the same thing. All right. So here's my installation options. Okay. It says install VeraCrypt. Okay. The 64-bit right there. Let's go ahead and do that. And now it wants me to go ahead and read the license agreement. Okay, of course, I'm going to read every word of this, every word, and I'm going to agree to all of it, without exception. Without exception, I'm going to agree to every word of this, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit Q to exit this document. It says, do you accept and agree to be bound by the license? Of course, of course I am. All right. So then it asks me for my password for Kali. All right. And then it goes ahead and it builds the application. And you can see that one of the things it did is it put VeraCrypt in the user bin directory. So that user bin is in the path in Linux, right? So that means that I don't have to go ahead and use the dot / to execute it. So I can just go ahead and write VeraCrypt like that, and it should execute. It's taking a little while. Okay, there we go. Okay, what it does next, okay, is it asks me if I want to go ahead and create a volume, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and say create volume. All right. So it creates an encrypted file container. So this would allow me to, rather than encrypt the entire hard drive, I can just encrypt certain files. I can put them into a container, okay, within my hard drive. And this would be all the confidential, personal, information that I don't want anybody to see. All right. So you can see down here, it's encrypt the non-system partition drive. That would be if I was going to send it out to, say, a thumb drive or an external hard drive. But let's go ahead and create an encrypted file container and just put my personal and company confidential information. If I'm working for a pen testing company and I have, say, my own exploits that I'm using, and I don't want anybody else to get them because they're worth, we know that zero-day exploits can sell for millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars. So if my laptop, I'm traveling through an airport and I go to the bathroom and I leave my laptop somewhere and somebody takes it, they can get my exploits off my laptop by just simply taking the screws off the laptop, opening up, taking the hard drive out, and then you don't have to go through any password protection if the files are not encrypted, okay? But here, we're going to encrypt the confidential information so that even if they physically have my system, they cannot get the information. So that's what we're doing. We'll go next. Okay, we're going to do a standard VeraCrypt volume. Okay, let's do that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and let's create, let's put it on the desktop so we can see it. All right, and then we'll call it, we'll give it a very stealthy name like encrypted volume.
Yeah.
And all right, so it's going to be on my desktop, encrypted volume. All right, and then I can go next. Let's read what it says here, though. A VeraCrypt volume can reside in a file, okay, called VeraCrypt container, which can reside on a hard disk, on a USB flash drive. A VeraCrypt container is just like any normal file, okay? It can be, for example, moved or deleted as any normal file. Click select file and choose the file name for the container. I did that, encrypted volume, right? Warning, if you select an existing file, VeraCrypt will not encrypt it. The file will be deleted and replaced with a newly created VeraCrypt container. So keep that in mind. So if you go and choose a file that's already there, basically it's going to delete it it's going to write over it is what it's going to do. It's going to go ahead and write over it. So don't do that. Create a new file, okay, for your encrypted.
Right.
And let's go next. All right. Now here's an interesting area here that kind of goes to some of the technical aspects of encryption. Most people, what they'll do here is that they'll simply select AES. AES is the Advanced Encryption Standard, which is a encryption standard that's used all over the world, right? And we use it in all of our systems, everywhere, every day, all the time. Most widely used encryption algorithm. It's been around for over 20 years now. It's given the standard by the U.S. government, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, every so many years selects one encryption algorithm to serve as its standard, the AES, and it's an encryption algorithm known as RINDAL after two Dutch cryptographers, and it's been around for a while. And this would be a good choice. It is a good choice to do, but you have other choices. and here's the other choices, right? There's lots of other choices. You can use Serpent, Twofish, Camellia. I don't know how to pronounce this. Kuznichek, AES with Twofish. So what these down here do is they cascade encryption. So what'll happen is that if you select, say, AES Twofish, it'll first encrypt the data with AES, and then it'll encrypt the data with Twofish, right? So you'll get double encryption.
Double encryption.
Right, and then here you'll get triple encryption, right? So it's just an additional level of, let's go this way here. It's an additional level of encryption and security to make sure that nobody can get to your data. Now, so there we've gone ahead and selected our AES, Twofish, and Serpent. So it's going to go AES first, then Twofish, and then Serpent. So it's going to go 3 rounds. Now, the drawback of that, okay, is that it's going to have a little bit of latency, right? It's going to, because it's taking 3 rounds of encryption. All of us have used AES at one time. AES is pretty fast. I mean, that's one of the reasons it was selected for AES, is that it's very efficient and fast. But now if we're using 3 different encryptions, we're going to create some latency on the files that get encrypted. That's not going to affect your other files, but just those that are going to get encrypted. So keep that in mind. Now it says here, 3 ciphers in a cascade operating in XTS mode. Each block is first encrypted with Serpent, then with Twofish, and finally with AES. Each cipher uses its own key. All keys are mutually independent, okay? And then we also can select, let's go hit the benchmark down here, all right? And let's go ahead and, it's going to go ahead and do a benchmark for me, okay? And showing me how long it takes to encrypt or decrypt, okay?
Cool. Yeah.
Right, so it's going to give us a little different idea of how long it's going to take on this machine with this CPU. Okay, speed is affected by CPU load and storage device characteristics. Okay, so it's kind of giving us a little bit of idea of how long it's going to take. Well, let's go ahead and get out of that. Here we have choices of hash algorithms. So for your viewers who aren't familiar with hashes are a one-way encryption. So up here, this is symmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption allows people to encrypt and decrypt with the same password. Right? It's very fast. Some asymmetric encryption uses different passwords on each end. Right? So with one password, as you encrypt it, another password to decrypt it, or key. Hashing, you encrypt it, and then it's encrypted, and there's no reversing it. All right, there's no way of reversing it, and this is excellent for a lot of things. And what I usually refer to hashing is this: it's an integrity check. It makes sure that hashed, what you actually encrypted, is the same as what you had expected it to be. So, for instance, when you downloaded, for instance, Kali here, there was a SHA-256 hash. Okay,
Right.
it's called a hash, or message digest is technically what it's called. This
Mhm.
allows me to check to see whether or not what I downloaded was exactly the same as what was on the website. It
Website.
means that it didn't get corrupted. It didn't have somebody put some malicious malware in it, right? So this is a way to
It's a
check
way
the
to validate data integrity.
data integrity. It's a way to validate data integrity, and it's used in a lot of different systems in our world, including forensics. It's used within forensics to make sure that when you capture a hard drive from a suspect, that that the analyst isn't adding any kind of malicious programs to the hard drive. In any case, there's many different options here that we have. SHA-512 was developed by the US NSA. We have some other options as well. Here's SHA-256. We can just leave it as a default here.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people have some questions about AES and SHA-512. The SHA algorithm was developed by NSA, right? AES was not developed by the NSA, but was approved by the NSA. And both of them, there's a lot of questions have revolved for years about whether or not the NSA has backdoors into these encryption algorithms. And the kind of the consensus among people within the industry is there is no backdoor in these. So then we can go next. Then go volume size. Let's make it small, right? Just make it 2,000 megabytes. Okay, and then go next. All right, and now we're going to put in a very, very secure password, a strong password. You can see it says it's very important that you choose a good password. You should avoid using one that contains only a single word that can be found in a dictionary. Okay, these are just good. These are good rules for any password, right? But they're asking, we recommend choosing a password consisting of 20 or more characters. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I would recommend that you follow the guidelines down below. All right, so these are always good guidelines for any password. Okay, so random combination of upper and lowercase letters. Okay, so because you're using uppercase and lowercase, passwords are case sensitive. So by using uppercase and lowercase, you're doubling the number of possibilities, which makes it harder to break. And then you're throwing in some numbers and you're throwing in some special characters. So somebody who's trying to crack your password has to use all of those possibilities and trying to brute force it, right?
Right.
So I've gone ahead now and put in a relatively safe password, right? And let's go ahead and go next. All right. Now it asks me what volume format, what kind of file system do I want it to be in? Now, if I'm doing it on a Linux system, I'm probably going to use extended 3 or extended 4, right? If I'm doing it in a Windows system, I'm probably going to do NTFS. And NTFS is the standard on Windows systems. FAT will usually work on most external thumb drives. So you can use it on Windows systems, you can use it on Mac systems, you can use it on Linux systems. So if I was encrypting a volume on a thumb drive, I'd probably use the FAT. That would allow me to go into any one of those places. But I'm doing it internally on my Linux machine. So I'm going to use a Linux extended 3, right? And then go ahead and go next, all right? And then so I will mount the volume on other platforms, okay? In this case, I'm not. I'm just going to mount it on Linux. But if I'm going to mount it on other platforms, I'd go ahead and click this one. Choose this option if you do not need to use the volume on other platforms. Okay, let's do that. All right. Now, here's an interesting section here. All right. One of the elements of a good encryption algorithm is what's often referred to as a nonce. Okay, this is a random element, that needs to be put into the algorithm to make it more difficult to crack. If this element is not random, it makes it relatively easy to break the algorithm. Okay, so a good example of this might be, back in the original encryption algorithm for wireless, which is called WEP or WEP. It was using an RC4 streaming cipher in there. And the RC4 is a good encryption algorithm, but they used an improper nonce. They used a nonce that only had 5,000 possibilities. And that's why WEP is so easy to break. All right. So what we have to do here is that we've got to give it some randomness. And so if you take in a computer, if you go ahead and have a program that creates a pseudo-random number, it's not really random, right? It's not. It's pseudo-random. It's called pseudo for a reason. So that's not going to do us. It's not going to help us. So we have to create our own randomness, right? And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. But this program allows us to create our own randomness by moving the mouse around. Yeah, see, it's going. I'm creating some random motion. Okay, and it's collecting that randomness, okay, for the nonce, the random element in the algorithm. So I got to do this for a while and just kind of make some random motions like this. And this is adding randomness to the algorithm, making it even more difficult to crack. Okay. Here's a note down below. It says, move your mouse as randomly as possible within this window. The longer you move it, the better. This significantly increases the cryptographic strength. Exactly what I was referring to is that by adding this randomness, you are able to make the algorithm even stronger. Because most of these algorithms require some random element to make it stronger. All right, so let's go ahead then and go format. Okay. And you see it's, I created a very small volume so we could get through it quickly. But if I created a big volume, it would take longer. I think I only created like 2 megabytes? Is that what I did?
Yeah,
it's almost done.
Yeah, but people that want to encrypt larger file sizes need to take it into account here.
Right, it's going to take a while. It can take a matter of, for very large volumes, it can take an hour or so. There we go.
Yes.
Okay. So as we finish up here, the VeraCrypt volume has been created and is ready for use. If you wish to create another VeraCrypt volume, click the next. Otherwise, click exit. So exit. All right. And we now have successfully created a encrypted volume on my Kali machine. And then what I can do is to put all of my personal confidential files into that volume, and they will be safe from any prying eyes. Let's go and take a look at it. There's my encrypted volume. Okay.
Perfect.
And now if I go ahead and say cat encrypted volume, everything is encrypted.
Yes, in gibberish.
Yeah, it's all binary. Okay.
So if we want now to open this file, we need to do it via VeraCrypt.
Okay, so now I have created an encrypted container that's here on my desktop. In real life, I probably wouldn't want to put it on my desktop, right? I probably would want to put it in some obscure place where nobody would see it, right? And maybe put it within another file or put it within another directory that it's not going to be obvious.
Name and a different
change its name. Don't call it encrypted file. Don't call it This is my confidential information.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So let's go ahead and rename it. Okay, let's rename it to um, uh, child pics. All right. All right, there's my child pics. Right? No, that's let's not name it that because somebody might interpret that to mean it's child pornography. Let's not do that. All right, let's call it the family pics. Let's do that. Yeah, I can imagine somebody's going to look. Oh, that's child pornography. I don't want to. No. Okay. So I've gone ahead and changed the name of my encrypted container to family pics. That sounds like it's something that is safe and innocuous.
Right.
But then what I can do is double click on it. Okay.
And just
then
put the password.
And there's my password. And then I just click OK. I click OK, and then it opens up my file that only I can see the contents of my family pictures.
Definitely, and I think this is great for everyone that want to strengthen his data privacy. As you stated, it's not enough to protect the data behind the login credential. It's more important if you really want to put it undercover, we'll say. This is a good way to do it. Of course, there are more applications and solutions. We showed it on VeraCrypt. And I'm grateful for that, Occupy the Web. Thank you very much, as always.
Thank you for having me, Yaniv. I look forward to doing more videos with you in the future.
Great. So thank you all for watching. If you like the video, please click the like button. If you are not a subscriber yet, please do so. It will only take a second and one click. And if you are interested in more of Occupy the Web videos, definitely you can see many bunch of them in this channel. And until the next one, see you.